Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back. Um, to start off today, we're going to be talking about site visits, what to look for, kind of like the tools, the things you should bring along with you on these different site visits. But I'm going to also discuss there's two different, well, kind of four different, but it breaks down into two categories. We're going to talk about public, what do you call it? Public works types of site visits and private work site visits. So, you know, the way I'm gonna break it down is we'll go ahead and talk about the private first, the private side, and then I'll go ahead and talk about the public side. They're they're a little different, but at the same time they're very different. Especially with the information that needs to be presented at the time of the site visit, and a few requirements that some of the different entities may have. So let's go ahead and start with the private side. Now, on the private side, as you probably know, there's the residential area and there's also the commercial area. And the commercial area can get into, not just retail, but, obviously food services, warehouse type of things, and other, smaller niches, I guess you could say. And the residential, well, 1, 2 story homes. Um, it kind of gets a little mudded here and there when it comes to like multifamily units, because technically what do you call it, like a four townhomes or apartments, whatever you want to call them, like one unit is technically still considered residential in most cities. But when you get into the big huge like whole complexes of things, then it gets a little more complicated. But anyways, so on most of the projects, you're probably going to see, yes, they do have plans that are finished, probably specs. Some of them, the specs are already on the plans. Especially like I said, for the residential. I know when I do design of residential construction, which, is even just a freaking patio cover that needs to be permitted now. But room additions, some of the remodels, depending on what you're touching, how much drywall you're taking out, things of that nature. Concrete being saw cut out, plumbing being adjusted, things like that. The specs are going to be on the sheets. You're not going to have an entirely separate spec book. Now, if you're dealing with an actual like licensed architect, it might be a little different. But even then, the structural engineers and mechanical engineers, they put their specifications usually on like the first 2 pages, with the abbreviations, things like that. Structural guys will put the concrete, wood framing, sheathing, fasteners, all kinds of things. Rebar, the what do you call it? When the bend, not schedule. I can't remember exactly what it's called off the top of my head, but all that information is going to be on the sheets. The first 1 or 2 sheets of your structural pages. Like I said, same thing with the mechanical. Although usually the mechanical might get deferred from those plans, and it's up to the mechanical guys to actually go pull permits for the system that they're going to put in. As a designer, I might put in the registers, the supply and exhaust, supply and return registers in a home. But it's up to the mechanical actual subcontractor to go ahead and pull the permits for their work. The furnace, if they have one, air conditioning, things like that. Now, when you just show up to a site visit, one of two things could be the situation when you show up. Of course, on a remodel, even an addition, you'll have a structure that's already there. And so, it's just a matter of taking the measurements from not only the interior of the home, but the exterior home and also the site itself, the plot that it's on. Now, sometimes, well, most of the time, you can actually go either to the city or actually the county assessor's office, or online, most of them are now, and get the information that you need from there as far as the size of the lot. They'll have when the entire, when the entire community was built and the original plans were submitted with all the sight lines, and the dimensions of the lots and all that stuff, from the different books will be digitized and you should be able to access that online. You can also get the APN or the parcel number, the assessor's parcel number. That's what it's known as here in California. I'm not exactly sure what it is throughout the rest of the nation and the other states, if anything's different. but usually you can get all that information publicly. But yeah, when you get there, if you have that, then you're gonna take that all those measurements. So you obviously you're gonna need a tape measure, and I would suggest bringing a 100-foot tape so that you can take the dimensions of the lot. Um, and then one of the other things that actually comes in very handy when you're shooting the interior, what do you call it? The layout when you're drawing, or if you're taking the layout of the interior, if you're going to be doing walls and things like that, moving them or replacing drywall and things of that nature, I find it very helpful, and it speeds up the process a lot, and for you to be more accurate by using a laser measuring tool. Now, usually you can pick those up at Home Depot, Lowe's, stuff like that, and they'll be accurate to about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, and a lot of the times they're good for indoor use. If you want a good one that you can use outside on a nice bright day, you might have to go somewhere like a specialty store, from Texas Instruments and things like that. There's a lower end that you can buy from like Bosch, DeWalt, stuff like that, and then there's the lot higher end that I can't even remember the name of those guys anymore now. But like I said, there's Texas Instruments. I think there's Allen Tools, things like that sell the higher end ones that can work in different conditions, including bright sunlight, which is the lower end ones usually have trouble with it. Even on a clear day. On a cloudy day, they might even work perfectly to shoot, what they're intended to shoot at. But for the most part, during, very bright days, you probably want to go with something a little higher end. Now, at the beginning, well, and it depends. If you're established already, if your company's already established and is doing well and stuff, then you might actually be able to push for buying one of those, or they might already have one available for when you go out and do measurements, and things like that. Because, if you want to do a remodel, depending on the scope of exactly what they want to do, you might even have a square foot price, and all you need is the square footage of the home, which you can either do, like I said, by taking the measurements while you're there, or you can even look up to see what the city has, because sometimes the county even has the square footage of the existing structure that's already there. So, let me see what else. There's that, and then so tape measure, 100-foot tape. And don't forget, for any notes that you need to take, you can take a notepad so that you can write things down, or even a spiral bound notebook, anything of that nature. And don't forget, obviously, something to write with. Now, let me see. Hang on a second, guys. I need to answer this. Sorry about that. I really hate doing this, but it's a little important that I get this done here. Okay. So, anyways, yeah, and you need those, like I said, including the notepad for any notes. Now, you might have some specialty things, especially if you're going to a site visit. Let's say you're working for, it's a general contractor, but they do restoration. So if you have water damage, you might have one of those moisture testers. So you want to make sure that you check to make sure that you have everything that you need when you kind of have an idea of what it is you're going to be looking at. Obviously, you don't want to be any type of destructive when you're just doing a site visit, especially to a residential home. Then you're gonna have to fix it. There's a lot of times when you have no idea what's behind you don't have X-ray vision. None of us have X-ray vision. We can't see behind the wall. So there's some contingencies that the owner is gonna have to foresee, or have some contingency money on the side for things like that, of that nature. Now, when you go to a commercial, it might be a little different on the private end. So what we're going to do is take a look at that. Now, in the commercial space, you have to remember that you can have traditional wood framing, and you can also have the metal stud framing. So when you're talking about doing things like that, you're probably going to have the same tools if it's just a remodel. But you also have to consider, if there's no structure there and you're going from the ground up, there's not much to visit. So, what is there? What's the purpose of what do you call it? Dang it, I lost my train of thought. Hang on, guys. I really need to take care of this. I'll be right back, all right? All right, guys, I'm back. So, where was I? Where was I? Oh, yes. Okay. So, when we go onto the commercial, or when there's the when we're on a site visit and there's nothing there, what you are most concerned with, and actually this is going to go for any of these conditions, public, private, doesn't matter. The thing that you want to really look out for is what's around the job site. Now, there's going to be some job sites where you go, it's going to be literally out in the middle of nowhere. So there's no point. If you know you're going out to the middle of nowhere, there's nothing around, that's it, right? So you don't have much to report back. But if you go and it's in the middle of a city or in a commercial area, things like that, whether it's the residential or a commercial area, the other thing you want to look for is look around, depending on the size of the job, how long you're going to be there. You might want to take a look to see what's around as far as like amenities. Is it somewhere that the guys are going to have to travel to, like kind of far, where it might be beneficial for them to stay? You're going to have to look for lodging. You also, if they're going to be there for a while, you want to look around for financial institutions where they can either, use the bank if they have a bank that's around there that's theirs, or at least have access to an ATM where they can they can pull out cash. You want to look for restaurants, dining. You want to look for stuff like that around there. And another thing is also, obviously grocery stores or liquor stores. So they need to go there, or a convenience store, and, not really a liquor store, but a convenience store. You want to take a look for those types of things that it's around there, so that if they are there for quite a while, then there's stuff for them to actually go out and partake in. Now, but whether you go to any of these other types of, this one also, it applies to everything. You want to see what the access is like to the site. And also, so is, like I say, is it out in the middle of nowhere and you can just whatever, and you are not going to have problems getting things there? Is in the middle of a residential area where you're going to be limited to the size of vehicle that can roll through there? Is it at the end of a cul-de-sac? Or is it on a cul-de-sac street? Things like that, so that not only yourself or your materials and your employees have access to it, see what that's like. For roofing materials, are there power lines really nearby? Are the utilities nearby? What is it that you're going to need to bring also? Are you going to have to bring generators? It's kind of like that type of stuff. And speaking of the site access, when you're looking around, are you going to have a laydown area for the materials? Or are they going to have to be stored like in the backyard? Is your site going to be secure? You don't want to, if not, you don't want to leave any tools there. Don't want to let the guys leave any tools there. Even a job box, because they're even sometimes, especially if it's a bad area, trust me, they'll either take the entire job box or they'll figure out a way to get in it and get the stuff out before anyone notices, before anyone shows up the next day for work. So there's different things that you really need to consider when you go out to a job site visit or a site visit, other than just the tools that you're going to need to measure out so you can give a price. So in that type of consideration, what you also want to do, after you take a look, the amenities, the site access, there's going to be a laydown area. In keeping with the same spirit of that, is there a place for the employees to park? Or how many are going to be on the crew that you send out, or the crews that you send out? Is the parking close? Is it on the job site? If it's off site, is it like in just some parking lot where it's all open? Is it a secure parking lot? Is there security? What kind of issues are there going to be, or have there been in the past, with either the site or that type of that owner in the past? Have they used this place before? What about the security that's working there? Is it good security? Does the guy just sit in the little shack all fucking day and doesn't do shit? I don't know. That's something that you're probably gonna have to consider. I have a story about that, and I'll tell you at the end of the stream here. So, other than that, the thing that we're gonna switch over to is on the public side. And believe it or not, as much paperwork and a pain in the ass as it is to get the public works projects done, they're a little easier as far as site visits go. So, when it comes to public works, you can have commercial and then commercial. What I'm talking about is some of the commercial buildings are actually wood framed buildings, not necessarily the residential. So you can apply a lot of the same techniques, but of course you're gonna have a little bit stricter, a little bit stricter building elements, especially here in California. Not only for residential, but for all wood buildings, actually all buildings, any structure that we put up, there's very stringent seismic requirements, because of the area that we live in is technically very we have a lot of seismic activity. So we're gonna have to moment frames for structural steel and braces. Same thing for the wood construction. We have all kinds of straps, braces, and things like that because of the seismic activity here in this region. So when you go onto a public site visit, you can have one of the two. And the reason why I say it's a little easier is because literally when you come onto the site visit, you probably want to take notes. So you'll need a notepad and a writing utensil. Your phone. Oh, that's what we didn't talk about. There's another thing that also goes with everything. A camera. It can be a regular camera, a mirrorless camera, DSLR, like the big cameras. You can even use your phone. Hell, I've seen people taking pictures and video with iPads. And it's fucking frustrating because you'll be standing there listening and you just see someone like this. Big ass fucking iPad taking pictures and shit. And so it's in the way. It's fucking retarded, but whatever. But that's something you're going to need on, I would say, all site visits. But let's go back to the public site visits. So when we're talking about the public site visits, like I said, it's a little bit easier, but you want to make sure you get there early. More than likely, most public works projects are going to have a sign-in sheet, and the site visit is actually going to be mandatory. Now, when the invitation to bid comes out, which is always publicly distributed, make sure you check if it actually is a mandatory site visit, because like I said, a lot of them are. So make sure you get there not just on time, but make sure that you get there early so that you can get to that sign-in sheet and you guys don't delay the start of the site visit. As my boss always used to say, if you're there 15 minutes, you're early. If you're there 10 minutes early, if you're there 15 minutes early, you're early. If you're there 10 minutes early, you're on time. If you're there 5 minutes early, you're late. Okay, so keep that in mind. Make sure you get there early so that you have plenty of time. They will, in most cases, at that time when it's supposed to be, they'll meet in a building, in a room, they will close and lock the door. So you guys need to make sure that you guys get there, because even if you're a minute late, they're not going to let you in. You can't sign the sign-in sheet, and now you can't even bid on the project. So you got to make sure that you guys are there on time. So when that happens, or when you're on that site visit, what you're going to do is you're going to go there, and I would say probably carry around, you can even bring we bring the paper pad or whatever you're going to use to take notes with. And I would say probably just bring a tape measure, just because. And I know most contractors or even like that, the estimators and things like that, they'll carry on their hip a tape measure and sometimes even like a box cutter or a knife. I mean, that's a personal preference. But anyways, so usually to the public site visits, you usually don't need to bring anything, because now you have to look this up in your state. But here in California, there's a law that says that the contractor is not responsible for the accuracy and completeness of the plans. Meaning, if something is missed in the plans, it's not the contractor's responsibility, and it's up to the entity, the owner, to go ahead and, if there's a change, if there's something that was unforeseen, it's on the owner and the architect. None of that blame gets passed to the contractor. The people can't say, oh, well, you should have known, or it's an industry practice. That doesn't fly in public works, okay? And especially, watch out, because if you have project managers from the entity that are trying to push you, oh, well, you should have known, you actually have the right to push back. Here, like I said, here in California, you're going to have to look to see what the laws are in your state. But here in California, you actually have the right to push back against that and say, it's not my fault. I'm following the plans and specifications. If it's not there, it's not there. And I have a story about that also, okay? So, but like I said, whether it's wood framing or metal framing, it's the same thing. When you show up to a site visit, you're looking for site access, things that are around on the project. Same thing, ask, lay down area. Now, in a lot of places in public works, you're not going to have the space. They're going to have to, stanchion off a place for you to put down as a lay down area. And you're going to have to bring your own fencing and secure it. But even then, it's not always 100% secure, especially if you leave valuable material out, like, copper lines and things like that. So you need to make sure that all of your subs also know that the laydown area is used only for certain things, and that you're not responsible completely for anything that gets stolen. That's on them. You're just providing the space for them to leave whatever they want to leave there, material or whatever, but that's up to them. It's at their own risk. You really need to tell them that. So the thing is, you really want to ask questions, but they will probably tell you that whatever is said on the site visit is only, not even opinions, but that you need to follow up with an RFI, a pre-bid RFI, to clarify everything, because whatever is said verbally, they cannot be held to. And this is very true. There's nothing that says that because they answered something, because someone wrote it down, means that that's actually what the answer is. It needs to be in writing on their end as an addendum that was released by the entity or the architect who works for the entity. So you guys need to make sure, if you have questions, write them down so you can send them in, because the whole idea of public bidding is that it's fair across the board. So if you ask a question or if you want some information, you can't be the only one that has that information. It has to be available to everyone. And you can't go on assumptions because that will come back and bite you in the ass. All right. So if you have questions, you ask in a pre-bid RFI to make sure it gets clarified. And it doesn't matter. It could be about the structure. It could be something dealing with the plans. It could be about parking. It could be about a laydown area. Anything and everything under the sun is game here, is fair game to ask so that it's available to everyone. This is meant to take away any advantages that someone might think they have, and for the entity not to be or not to play favorites to certain contractors. That's the intention of this law here in California. Like I said, please check with your local or state laws to see what applies, what doesn't, and what are the limitations of those laws. All right, guys? So, that's pretty much the gist of the different things that you probably need when you go places. The public site visits, like I said, they have you sign in usually, and they will actually release those sign-in sheets so that subcontractors can also have a list of the contractors that showed up, and then they can submit their prices to them unsolicited. So, it's supposed to, like I said, level the playing field for everyone. So even a sub that comes in and says, hey, I want to bid this project, and, if they don't have a specific general contractor that they work with and they just kind of see this list, they can send it to everyone. It doesn't matter. Someone might take them if they have the lowest price, but then they'll qualify them hopefully before the pre-bid bidding, because things can happen. So that's about it for the site visits. Let's get on to some of the stories. So let's see, what was the first one? Crap, I already forgot the first one. Anyways, so let's move to the second one. Second one, I went to a site visit, and everyone was walking around and questions were being asked, and they kept saying, make sure you follow up with an RFI, and all that good stuff. So pre-bid RFIs come out. I send in my questions. Other people send in their questions, and we noticed there was a question that was asked that during the meeting, the site visit, that no one else asked. So of course, we went through, everything was bid, and that contractor won the bid, and they were considered a considerable amount underneath it. They got the job, and of course, the first thing that happened was they hit the entity with a change order that actually pushed them above their original budget that we all would have been under with the questions that we asked. And the way they clarified it, saying that to bid the plans and specs, but this contractor didn't do that and went off of the information that was said during the site visit. So, like I said, this kind of stuff can come back and bite you in the ass, and it works on both sides, okay? Because sometimes that's just the way it is. Crap, and I wish now I remembered what the first freaking thing that we're talking about was, that I had a story for, because we were talking about, let's see, the site visits for the public and the private, and let's see, residential, commercial. Gosh, I cannot remember it anymore. So, if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to email me, and you see it there on the screen. You can hit up the email over here. You can send a tweet. I see everything that comes up anyways. I'm usually here. I have my phone with me, as you very well probably noticed by now. I keep it on me all the time. So, if you're a practicing project manager and you're not going out to site visits anymore, or as an estimator, or if you talk to the estimators, they're going out and then you have questions that they can't answer, this is why you guys need to really, really emphasize the communication between the different departments there, as far as the project management team, the estimating team, hell, even the superintendents, because sometimes they'll say, well, every time we get a job and we show up and this isn't done or this isn't ready, You guys didn't give us any information about this or that, whatever. You guys need to communicate so that everyone's on the same on the same page when it comes to the site visits. Because when it starts getting slow, you might send out a superintendent and go out there, and he'll take a look, and he has his superintendent experience that gives him insight onto what he needs to look for. An estimator might not think of certain things when they're out there, and they go, oh crap, when they get back to the office, I forgot to ask this, or I didn't take this measurement if it's an existing building, whatever. Hey, it happens to the best of us every so often, all right? But you really want to minimize the amount of mistakes so that you don't have to spend the money to go out there again, all right? So you need to make sure that your site visits are as complete as possible as far as the information you need to gather for yourself, so that you can have a complete bid when it comes to all that stuff, all right? So if you're going to send out an assistant PM, I would imagine you probably want to either give them a checklist of things to look for, have a talk with them so that they're aware of the different things that they need to look at and get information on. Same thing with the estimators, anyone that you're going to send out. Now, don't get me wrong, because I've seen this before. Sometimes, because everyone's busy, a company will send out a secretary or someone that works in the office that's not really used to being out there. Now, in public works, absolutely no problem. And that's exactly why they send them out there. They just need the person there. They just need the warm body to be there. They don't expect them to ask questions. But I'll tell you what, don't be surprised when you see a secretary or someone that works in the office that is actually well versed in what needs to be brought back to the office as far as information. I have seen this. There was a woman who showed up, clearly works as the receptionist at a general contractor, but she's the one that showed up, and I kid you not a pantsuit, but she had a skirt, but she had the business top. I'm not kidding, guys. Pearls, and she's there with her phone taking pictures. That's it. She's not asking any questions, not even taking notes and nothing. She's just taking pictures. She filled out the information so that her company had the opportunity to bid on this project. But I've seen the other side too. Someone shows up, a woman shows up, clearly works in the office, but she has some type of experience. And she's the one asking the most questions out there and writing things down for the RFIs to be sent in after she gets back to the office. This is not uncommon, guys. Don't be surprised. Trust me. All right? For actually, what you actually want to do is thank goodness that someone's here asking some of these questions that I would not have ever thought about while I was here, because I'm thinking about something else. I'm dealing with something on the phone. I'm, something. All right? So don't be surprised when that happens on site visits. But let's kind of wrap this up a bit. So on the private side, you probably do need to take some measurements and do this and do that, because even if there's plans out, there's certain things you're going to want to know that aren't going to be on the plans or specs. And on the public side, that stress gets kind of eased up off of you, because they're supposed to have all this stuff, all this information already ready for you, and what your job more than anything is just the site access, what's around, for the guys. Do we get is there enough room for a light down area? What about parking? More the logistics of things rather than the actual project itself. And they actually, a site visit, they're going to show you the building or the plot of land or whatever it is. You can take a picture. That way you have some type of reference on what the building actually looks like, where you're going, sometimes, different things like that. So in essence, the public side is a little easier as far as the site visits go. Now, as far as the work goes, that's a toss-up. But depending on what exactly the job that you're doing is, what area it falls under. And we'll leave that topic for another stream or another video. Now, so That's it. And remember the universal things that you should be able to do or take with you: some type of camera. Doesn't matter if it's an actual camera, a little digital camera, or your phone, but you need some type of way of documenting, of photographically documenting the site. You need to figure out what's around the site. Okay, you need to usually take at least a tape measure, um, and a notepad to write your notes and all kinds of other stuff uh, down with. And those are the basic universal things. And if depending if you're a sub or whatever, you might have to take some other things, but that's a lot of what goes into visiting a job site or a site, having a site visit, a pre-bid site visit in construction. Now, I'm thinking about actually starting to create a little bit, some content that is not just dealing with exactly this, but some kind of funny stuff that does pertain to project management, like, whether it's a day in the life of, a parody of a day in the life of, comparing project management to other things, in life, not just what your life is, but in other aspects and other things. Construction, or the project management on the construction side versus the production side versus the, some type of industrial side or something else. So if you guys have any comments or anything, any requests that you might want me to take a look at, to see the feasibility of whether it'd be nice to do or anything like that, same thing. Hit me up, guys. There's the email, there's the Twitter. You guys can get me either way. And don't forget, it's not just here on the CPM zone. If you guys were here before when it was the OG Construction Project Manager, you can still use that email address or even that Twitter account. It doesn't matter. It all comes back to me. All right, guys? Now, I don't have any funny video for you guys today or anything like that. So, but like I said, hit me up with anything else that you guys might want to take a look at. All right? Let me see real quick here. I got something. Do I have something? No, geez, something just fell over, guys. Hang on. I'll be right back. I know it's almost the end, but hang on a second, guys. And I'm back again. All right, guys. Okay. So yeah, I was thinking about creating some content like that. Would be something kind of funny, something kind of off, not off topic, but something to do, while we talk shop and shit like that. So yeah, if you guys have any ideas, hit me up. I hope you guys last time, was it last time or the time before, that that little video with the huskies, the little puppy huskies, that the day in the life of a project manager, or what a project manager does. That was pretty good. If I find anything else like that, I'll let you guys know, all right? But yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to make some content and kind of ease up on the seriousness of the channel, kind of have some little fun. I think that would, be nice. A little change of pace for everyone. But yeah, if you guys learned something, do me a favor, hit the like button on this video. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit that little notification bell so whenever the stream comes up or release anything else, you guys can be aware of it and hopefully hop on the stream and things like that. All right. So yeah, with that, you guys, hey man, it's still crazy times out there. So you guys make sure that you guys are staying safe, social distance. If you don't need to go in the office, don't go in the office, guys. I mean, I know a lot of us are used to the office. I actually was in and out of the office a lot, even as once I became a PM. The way I was trained is, we still visit the job site. I were set foot on that job site at least once a day, sometimes even more than once a day, depending on what's going on and the issues that are, there are any issues that need to be resolved. But as my boss from when I first started in general with a general contractor, she always said we need to be proactive, not reactive. Now, there's a lot of times when you don't have a choice and you just have to react to something that happened or something, some type of issue on the job site, which is no fault of yours. But if you let something just drag and now you're reacting to what the consequences are, that's on you. So remember, try to be proactive instead of reactive. And that also goes for this pandemic that we're going through right now. So you need to be proactive, wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, all that shit that the health agencies are putting out and the doctors are putting out. All right, you guys, we need to get past this so that we can go back to normal life. All right. But other than that, when you're on the job site, make sure you got your PPE, your hard hat, your glasses, your vest, maybe even gloves. Make sure you got your boots and all that stuff while you're out there to minimize the possibility or the risk, minimize your risk of serious injury when you're out there. All right. So until then, I'll see you guys. What's today? Today's Wednesday. So I'll see you guys on Saturday. All right. So till then, stay safe, guys.